Many people over the last couple of weeks have been asking me, when is the Ripple loss going to be over? What do you think the XRP price is going to get to if Ripple wins? And what would happen to XRP if they end up losing? Now, I should also quickly state that macro-wise, there's so much happening in the crypto space, so much happening in the, regulatory space, just financial space and markets in general. And I'd like to say that everybody is talking about the SEC right now, whatever they're doing, partially about cryptocurrencies and partially about exchanges and crypto exchanges. Take a look at Fortune, for example. The SEC's campaign to define exchange should concern every American, even those without ties to crypto. And at the same time, everybody's worried about all the money moving over to Asia, with even Warren Buffett boosting investment in Japan's top trading houses, and investors are piling in behind him. And on that note, even in Japan, with regards to crypto, they're adapting. Japan eyes crypto push with loser margin trading rules. A report shows that Japan's FSA is in talks with local crypto exchanges for offering borrowing margin of 4 to 10 times than the existing 2 times. And the vice chairman Genki Oda said in an interview, reforming the leverage rule could make Japan more attractive for crypto and blockchain companies. It's interesting to note that Ripple is also working in a very nice manner with SBI over in Japan. They've got a joint venture together, SBI Ripple Asia or something like that. I don't remember the name. Yeah, it is indeed called SBI Ripple Asia. And as we've seen, those guys over at SBI seem to believe XRP is going to be hitting $10 at least. And they're pretty bullish on Ripple shares, which again are not the same as XRP, increasing as the probability also increases of them winning, but especially if they do end up winning. And it made me think, where would the price go if they won? How high could it go? Before we move on, make sure you press that like button right now. If you haven't done it yet, make sure you press it right now. I'll give you like 1, 2, 3. All right, there's a couple of bases we should set. One, it depends on what happens with the SEC, how high the XP price goes. Because right now, the situation is quite dire where everybody's looking at what are the rules for exchanges in the US, but also around the world. Binance is shutting down services in a lot of different countries. UK is being harsh, Netherlands being harsh, US is being harsh. What exactly happens to those? The more negativity there, well, the more volatility in the crypto space as a concept, but also the less potential we have for crazy pumps because potentially there are just less people interested in trading if all the exchanges are shutting it down. For the time being, because eventually it doesn't matter whatever exchange is out there, crypto will survive and I think will still pump and thrive. Second of all, it matters what are other countries doing. Japan is bullish, okay, that's very nice. Korea potentially might be bullish. What all these other countries are doing will still depend a lot, or I guess will explain a lot of XRP's price momentum the moment that they do end up winning. But the same thing applies for what are other countries doing, not only in terms of a normal crypto sense, but what are they doing regulatory wise? Are they following the SEC, the US SEC? Are they getting their own routes in? Are they actually properly regulating crypto? And again, another one is, did Ripple or other companies decide to massively move jurisdictions? Is there all of a sudden a massive wave to the UAE where all these companies move? Is there more being found out about Ethereum? Right now, people are linking the IMF, different law firms, and different SEC members together to basically promote the living crap out of Ethereum. But maybe at some point, people are going to find out that that was all lies and crazy things. And so that could turn back into positivity for XRP, which got sued without the right justification, a lot of us believe. Again, I still believe to this day that they did it to suppress XRP. Again, when looking back at history, there have been many times where XRP's dominance was more than that of Ethereum, or at least came close to it. And that makes you think. After that lawsuit at the end of 2020, it's just basically gone exactly in opposite side, where Ethereum basically kept creeping up on Bitcoin, and XRP basically kept creeping down. Not completely, but for the most part. And so, again, that's an added multiplier. If the XRP lawsuit is over and they become victorious, I do believe, depending on what information comes out about Gary Gensler and all these guys and whether or not they bundle together and what happens to Ethereum, XRP could take a lot of that dominance back. You got to understand, if it gets back percentage-wise to where it was a while back, like for example, back in 2018, in the major bull run, for example, to any one of those points, it could get all the way towards like 14% dominance. That's like almost 8 times or so what we've got right now. Let's just say 7 or so times. And that is only to get back percentage-wise to where it was before. So that would already be let's just call it an 8x in XRP price without even talking about the gains on the sides. This is just about getting back to where it could belong. Respectively, Ethereum at this point was about 12 point some percent. But the highest point that were together basically was Ethereum at 16.5 and XRP at about 20%. That will put XRP right now at a 10x and Ethereum just on a slight decline. That is crazy to imagine that that could be the case. And now potentially with some of these proposals for Ethereum, for example, with raising their validator limit, this could be another bearish factor for Ethereum, which again, if XRP is in a proper spot, could make it propel even further. And what I've also been thinking about is the moment that an ETF comes out for something like Bitcoin in the way in which we imagine it's going to be happening, how exactly could that be reflected on XRP the moment that there is clarity? Anyway, all those things are quite uncertain. Now, what I think is going to happen, just without all these points measured and without all these points put in, I think the XRP price is just on its own going to be gaining mostly from the idea that finally we got out of this mess. Boom. XRP's utility can shine, is the first properly regulated crypto in the US, and finally, there's not this lingering pressure of, oh, they could lose. And also a lot of FOMO. Now, because of historically the price went to, let's say $4 or whatnot, a lot of it was pressured by Korea. That's why I'm saying let's just call it $3, not $3.96, not $3.60, $3, let's say. Because Bitcoin at the time was roughly $20,000 and went to $69,000, so about let's just call it 3.5x. I believe XRP still has that in it to just do a 3.5x casually because of a massive victory like that from the all-time high. And we stated before, I personally believe it would not be too crazy to do a 50x from the low prices that it had before, which was 17 cents or so. This is right after they got sued. The price went to 17 cents. And I said, I think a 50x or so from here to right around $8.50 would not be too crazy. And that would not be a 3.5x from all-time high, but only roughly a 2.5x. And from the prices where we are right now, let's just call it 17 times or so of the value that it is right now. I don't think that's too crazy for the moment that the lawsuit is actually over. But it depends on so many factors, like I said it before, because I still believe that the price is being manipulated and kept down for Bitcoin because of some of these major investment firms. But anyway, to go on with my list, another thing that matters a lot is Gary Gensler or the whole SEC exposed or not? Have they gotten away from their throne? Right now, Warren Davidson, I believe is his name, and Tom Emmer are both looking to replace Mr. SEC, Mr. Chairman Gary Gensler, because of his wrongdoings and because of the way in which this system right now works. Another one is, are they going to be looking at the SEC and thinking, hey, none of these things the SEC is trying to overrule and trying to make new regulations on by enforcement, but are actually under their jurisdiction. I mean, we've seen on the IMF's website recently that XRP is also considered to be a virtual currency, and a lot of different companies, I believe some of these banks as well, have been starting to looking at crypto as actual currencies, just not issued by a central bank, central government. And so then it becomes a wonder, is that going to be splitting up from the SEC into a new entity that potentially could be formed? All that could theoretically speaking happen before this case is set. And that just changes everything, which is the strange part about it. Another thing could be, and again, you have to think about this all quite properly. What's the market looking like at that point? And what's the enthusiasm looking like for the whole crypto market? Because right now, even though prices are doing okay, I wouldn't say that crypto is in the most negative of spots. 27,000 is still quite nice, and there's a lot of enthusiasm for all these new ETFs and the SEC getting shut down. But here's an important point. Ripple case nears conclusion. We all know that, which is why I believe that right now so many more eyes are on XRP. But the fight for clarity must continue. Regardless of what happens in this case, by the way, on a side note, people have to keep fighting off for crypto regulations as a concept. And so a question again comes, what exactly is ruled in the case? Besides the excitement of the market, it's very important to understand. Are they going to be ruling on secondary XRP sales? Is it only the investment contract officially part that is ruled on? Which exactly of all these major points is being discussed in the first part of the lawsuit? Because you got to understand, whoever wins, Ripple or SEC, they're going to be fighting it through. It's not the end right now. If the SEC loses, they'll probably say, hey, let's appeal this. Let's go on again because we don't agree. If Ripple loses, they'll say, hey, let's spin this back. Let's go a court higher. Let's try this again. Where eventually it goes to trial, and eventually it can take another year or so to clear, which could not be the best for pumps. Then again, we all know that XRP as a crypto and as a ecosystem will still grow regardless, that's again my opinion, of what happens in the case. I would say the enthusiasm would be a little bit less, and there would be skepticism, but it's similar to when they got sued by the SEC, and I guess it's kind of similar to what happened with quite a lot of other cryptos that were called out by the SEC, like Algorand, etc., Cardano. Even if they were to be called securities officially by the SEC and the courts decide, okay, boom, that's it. We as the people don't agree. So at that point, I'd say the price would stay kind of stable, with, of course, another fall, potentially towards 10 cents or so. But I do not think we'd have a situation as with Luna where things just die out completely, because that probably should have happened already when they actually got alleged to be a security by the SEC. Since it didn't happen, I think regardless of what the judge decides, XRP will still survive because the fight, as we just stated, has to go on anyway. I mean, Coinbase is now in, Binance is now in, all these other cryptos now have gotten sued. Exactly what Ripple had been warning for all these years. People didn't take it serious, but right now they are. BlackRock is not going to let this slip by. I'm not talking about XRP. I'm talking about the idea of crypto getting slammed to the ground when they can make money on it. No, that probably won't happen. You have to understand, from an institutional perspective as well, there's going to be, if Ripple wins, so much money flowing in. Here's, for example, a little flow by assets, which shows an interesting amount of inflows into XRP here, especially in comparison to a lot of other things. I should call them investment vehicles or assets. And the reason why, I think, for the most part, is because right now it's been years since the lawsuit started. So people are able to buy XRP at a still relatively low price, very close to a conclusion. And if it were a roulette wheel, that's how I always like to refer to it as. Because you still don't know some of these circumstances. It's still a little bit of an unknown. If you call it a roulette wheel, with a 50-50 chance of winning and losing. In the absolute worst case, which again, for simplification, let's call it a 50% chance. I still believe Ripple has a, let's call it 90% chance of getting out of this better than they went into it. But let's just say it's 50-50 to get a worst case scenario going. If they were to lose, your 50 cents would turn to zero. Worst case scenario. That's the worst that could happen, which would also lead a lot of other cryptos to go down in the meantime, similar to if a stablecoin were to go down. But hey, let's just call it that. In the best case scenario, which again, almost has 50% odds, so almost a second to it, your price goes, I'd say, at least a 6x or so. Let's just call it as a baseline to a couple dollars back to the all-time high. But even if you want to be a little bit more conservative, you say 4x, and I think a best case is like a 25x or so. But let's just stay conservative and say 4 times the price. That basically means worst case times 0, 50% chance. Best case times 4, or let's say the most realistic case times 4 at 50% odds. If that were to be the odds in a roulette game, I'd always take it. Why? Because you have 50% chance to lose your money and 50% chance to 4x it. Meaning, I've got $1,000 right now to tell you, hey, let's flip a coin. That's a fair coin, right? So it's just 50-50 and you know it for sure. You flip the coin yourself, or you're grabbing your coin out of your own pocket. You flip it. If you lose your $1,000. If you win, you get 4,000. I think almost anybody would do that unless they just have something against gambling, which I also understand. But I'm just saying, if that's the hypothesis that you keep in your head, it's like, I should say hypothetical that you keep in your head. Yeah, it's really good odds, right? Because the upside is basically unlimited, while the downside is very much limited, and the percentage chance of them winning is so much greater that it just gets better and better odds. Let's put it like this. Let's say you roll a dice, and if you roll 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, I quadruple your money. So basically, let's say you put $1,000 in, and you roll 2, 3, 5, 4, 5, 6. You get $6,000 out of it, $4,000 out of it, whatever. Only if you roll 1, you lose your money. Or you only half your money then. So it goes from 1,000 to 500. Yeah, you'd always take that. And that's the way I think about crypto as a concept in the most simplistic of terms. Even when people ask me, oh, isn't this crypto stuff dead? I keep thinking, well, no, it just keeps on growing every single day. Look at what just happened with Fidelity. Look at what just happened with BlackRock. Look at what just happened here, that. But I also think about it from the perspective of, well, even if it were to be potentially still a small chance, right? Let's just call it a 5% odds or a 10, 15% odds, whatever. It's still worth the risk for just trying it out, even if you don't know anything about it. I'd recommend people to look it up, but still, I think from almost every way, shape, or form, it's just worth that risk and it's worth that adventure. Anyway, I can go sit there talking about probabilities for a long time, but let's also, again, reiterate. This is not a game anymore with just Ripple against the SEC. Oh, this is just a little bit of a fight. It doesn't matter who's going to win or lose. No, I have mosquito bites everywhere, by the way, because I spent some times in the jungle. It's absolutely interesting. It's not like I'm twitching from a massive, heroin or crack addiction or something like that, where you're thinking, oh, what's this guy doing? He's twitching like a maniac. That's mosquito bites, right? For as far as you know. But no, even Mark Cuban, guys like Mark Cuban, have entered the game, and they're not going to let this slide too easily from the SEC side, because they got to really properly explain, if we were to lose, for example, why exactly XRP is a security and why that Ethereum is fine. That's going to be so hard to do correctly. That's going to be so hard to do without everybody being able to pinpoint that Ethereum got preferential treatment, which again, we don't mind that they were looking for clarity, Ethereum looking for that, but it's just strange that they can't apply this rule to other cryptos now that Ethereum's got it already a while ago. Why not now with others? Why only Ethereum and not the rest? Why not Ethereum first, get it done, clear, cool, make money, all right, and then the rest as well? But why only that and not the rest? Then again, more and more is going to be found out with regards to all these connections as, well, more fights are being brought up by the SEC too. Not that the SEC went to start a fight against Coinbase, Binance, and Mark Cuban joined the game, and the guys at BlackRock, Fidelity joined the game. There's going to be like an extra couple thousand, let's say a couple 100,000 eyeballs on whatever the SEC says, does, and whatever. Whenever they went after Algorand, for example, people found out, hey, you promoted Algorand in the past, and so forth and so on. And when they went after other cryptos, they said, hey, Gary, you actually said that most cryptocurrencies were fine in the past, and all that stuff is going to be adding up. In a similar sense, for example, the IMF silently recognized XRP a couple years back. That cannot and shall not go unnoticed. And all these points make it more clear to me that whatever happens in the first phase of this lawsuit eventually is going to be overturned with XRP being victorious. And logically speaking, it should, in my opinion, get back to levels where it was before when it was all just hype. XRP got to $3.50, whatever like that, because a lot of it was based on the idea that it could get listed onto Coinbase. Because remember, the day after the all-time high, Coinbase came out to say we're not planning to list XRP, but they did eventually do it, which again brings up a thought of why was it not fine to list them back then? Why was it scary? Doesn't matter. Eventually they decided, with SEC's approval, so to speak, oh, it's fine. But then the SEC also said Coinbase IPO is fine, and then later tried to revoke that by saying, well, not really. And the same thing applies to XRP being listed. Not really. From that perspective, right? I believe that with the hype and idea that we had back then in the big boom market, it will come back this crazy amount of hype in about a year and a half from now. If XRP doesn't get to this $10 mark or so, the first time around, $10, $12 mark, the first time around when the lawsuit is over and Ripple becomes victorious, if the proper conditions are met, which is the ruling on secondary sales, which is that XRP can still be traded on these exchanges out there, again, depending on what exactly the rules are on exchanges at that point, and that XRP gets back on these exchanges. If it doesn't go to $10 almost instantly, I do believe that in due course, as Bitcoin gets to its all-time high, potentially the end of 2024, something like that, because I still believe in these halving cycles, maybe beginning of 2025 for like the $100,000 mark or something like that, maybe even 130,000, maybe 150,000, who knows, that it'll get to some crazier price points because at that point they've got clarity, institutional money coming in. Again, even the IMF showcases that whatever Ripple's thought of in terms of use cases here are just awesome. So it's not about that. It's only, I think, about the SEC just keeping them back. But I think the moment that it's over, there's also going to be a little rage of victory. We've already seen over the last couple of months, a lot of people switched up their minds. Where in 2017-18, whenever I made an XRP video, people were calling it banksters coin, garbage, centralized shit coin, whatever. Right now, there's so much more support because people understand it's really not that strange of a coin. It's really not that different, and they're honestly fighting a proper fight against the SEC. So the sentiments has changed with more people supporting it now than before. And again, in a similar sense, Bitcoin right now is at 27,000, which is still, let's just call it a 50% higher than the all-time high when XRP also hit its all-time high. So from that perspective, $4.50, something like that, shouldn't be too crazy for like a hovering price for XRP right now, which would still be about a 10x from this price. And as more people are supporting it right now than before, again, realize this properly, there's a very high probability that the moment it's all settled, a lot of these buyers that have been anxious on the sidelines will all of a sudden massively be buying XRP right now as well. Again, we saw some recent little price shoves upwards where there was all of a sudden excitement of Ripple actually getting to a conclusion. Those small little movements are going to be propelled so much more because all these players are just now on the sidelines. I keep seeing people say, should I buy XRP? No, because they're probably going to lose, all that stuff. But the moment that they win, all people want to be first. All people want to be there the moment that it happens because eventually there's going to be relistings. Eventually there's going to be all these different things. So I do expect the price is going to pump a little bit too much. I even think it could go as high as like $20 in a day because of too much FOMO, because of people just wanted to get XRP right now because of this crazy of an announcement. It could happen, but I do believe then that the price would actually fall back down because it potentially could go too hard. But it depends on so many factors. I do believe XRP could get back to the number 3, number 2 spot. I do believe that will happen, and I can go on ranting about this for another couple of days, but let's just cut it short by saying that I am just extremely bullish on XRP, and nobody can change my mind, or at least you can try to, but I remain quite bullish. So yeah, let me know down below what you think XRP price is going to get to, and make sure you've got the notification bell on, because what if something crazy happens? What if this lawsuit settles tomorrow? You got to be notified of whenever that happens. And I'll see you guys again in another crypto video later today.